Welcome once again to Liberty's Great American Cookbook, the show that takes American classics and shows you how to cook them perfectly at home, using local ingredients and a lot of American know-how. Today we're in New England, a region known throughout the world for its seafood and dairy products. And today I'm whipping up some New England quahog clam chowder and a shrimp bun roll that you're absolutely gonna fall in love with, especially with how easy they are. And to help me out today with the tasting, I'm super excited to welcome to the studio the owner of Grunting Growler, Jayhad Hatu, and the Glasgow food geek, otherwise known as blogger Pam Gilmore. I hope y'all like your seafood because this is going to be something real special. I mentioned the seafood influence on New England cooking. Well, it also has quite an influence on some of our local restaurants here in Scotland. I heard about some spectacular Bloody Mary oysters available on our doorstep, and I just had to go find out some more. Here we are at the Finniston, and you guessed it, the Finniston area of Glasgow, to meet Chef Scott, who's gonna show us his fresh twist on some classic American seafood dishes. Let's go. Scott, these have to be some of the most beautifully plated things I've ever seen in my life. So what's the difference between Scottish oysters and American oysters?
So I think the Scottish ones, the ones we get, especially in the Finniston, they're hand-picked. There's a lot of care taken into them. All our seafood here at the Finniston is almost brought straight from the boats. I mean, like in Scotland, you've got a fantastic abundance of fresh seafood, and it's simply cooking it makes it the best.
At home, we call these things arsters, and I've heard that's because oysters are meatier in months that have R in them. Yeah. Is that true?
That's something I've never heard this before, and that's the first time I've heard it.
Maybe you can change your menu to arsters. So what are these called? What kind of oysters do we have sitting in front of us?
So what I've got here is an American classic with a real Scottish twist on it. This is a Rockefeller oysters, but what we've used is some Scottish picked herbs. So what you've got here is some elderflower, some sweet cicely, and just some freshly grated lemon on it.
So what about these guys?
So these ones here are your classic Bloody Mary ones.
So New England food and Scottish food are quite similar. I mean, just look at the name, right? Do you feel like you have a big American influence on the seafood you make?
I wouldn't say that it influenced me greatly, but from the times that I spent in the States, you've noticed me, you've got like a New England clam chowder and a corn skink. They are very similar in what they are, but New England clam chowder is still kind of my favourite over a corn skink any day.
I've been a little bit nervous because I wasn't quite sure exactly how to eat an oyster, but are people in Glasgow confident about coming in and ordering oysters? Because it's not a normal thing on a menu.
Well, I mean, like here at the Finniston, nearly every table that comes in does order oysters, but I think in Glasgow definitely there's almost a 50-50 split. You either love them or you hate them.
So can you tell me what the proper way is to eat oysters? Because I've always wondered what exactly I'm supposed to do.
So for me, it is just pick it up, just from the back, and just tilt it into your mouth.
Well, I'm ready to dive into these babies.
Let's go.
Going for the Bloody Mary one. There we go. Oh. Oh! I sure do pack a punch, but they're delicious, and they might be my new diet trick. But before we get too healthy on ya, I'll be back in the kitchen making up my version of New England beach dishes. Those Bloody Mary oysters sure pack a punch. So as they say, I gotta follow that. So let's dive into our quahog clam chowder. We're gonna start with a little bacon right here that's gonna go into everything. So just sort of give it a nice little slice, nothing really special, just sort of slice it up. Now the really important thing about this is that you are gonna be using streaky bacon, okay? Streaky bacon, not that, I don't know, whatever the other stuff is, the Scottish bacon that you do, because we really need the fat to render, which is gonna give sort of another level to your chowder. So you need to make sure you really get that fat in there. So this is a hot pan. I just put a tiny little bit of butter and you hear that nice sizzle. And we're gonna let that cook while we make up our vegetables that are gonna form the other base for this clam chowder. So you just sort of move that around, get a little steam going, make sure you have your extractor fan on or your windows open, one of the two. So we're gonna start chopping our vegetables. my famous onion goggles that, again, I will remember to take off. So here's our onion. We're going to use a full onion and just a nice dice. Now, a lot of people, when they make soup or chowder, tend to make things almost minced, but I really don't agree with that. I like to know what I'm eating. I like to be able to see it. So I think it's quite important that you give a really nice sort of solid chop to it, and you can really just taste your vegetables. So we'll put in a little bit of onion there with our bacon, get some really nice flavors going on. And then we'll chop our other onion. And again, this is the way we're gonna chop it. You go first vertically all the way along the onion and leaving a little bit of space so that the onion can stay together. You chop right along horizontally, again, not taking your finger off. And then you can just do a really nice slice right down there that gives you these nice, perfectly proportioned chunks of onion. So there we go, that's perfect. And now I can remove my onion goggles so I don't start crying. We'll do carrots too. It gives a really nice sweetness and they're gonna caramelize a little bit. And again, you just sort of give a little chop away, nothing really that impressive or exciting. But you really wanna be able to taste those carrots and allow them to caramelize in the pan. So quail clam chowder, which you may not be familiar with, I'd never really heard of it before actually, is a type of clam. So the quail itself is a very specific type of clam. And actually the Native Americans used to use it as money. So they'd make them into beads and then they'd use them as money. So it's quite a cool, I guess, beginning of where clam chowder came from. And then the use of all the vegetables, because the Native Americans used to just use the clams themselves, came from the Pilgrims who were in New England. So our, I guess, English roots of Pilgrims came to New England, and the clam chowder came from them, really, of using all these vegetables as the base for your stock, I guess, to make this amazing, delicious, creamy clam chowder. So we're also gonna use a little bit of celery. Again, just a nice rough chop, nothing really intense here. We really don't wanna mince it. You wanna know exactly what you're cooking. So we have some fabulous guests here, and one who happens to be from the States himself, Jihad. And I heard before that you were pretty excited about having some clam chowder.
The thing is, I moved here from Chicago about 5 years ago, and ever since moving back, I don't think I've actually tried clam chowder in the whole 5 years. So I can smell everything cooking right now, and it's just getting me really, really hungry. So in the nicest possible way, you really need to hurry up and get that out on the table for us.
I feel like I'm getting a little pressure here to hurry up. So I've put my celery in, and I'm just slicing up a little bit of thyme here. I like to use fresh herbs whenever I have the chance, but a lot of times you don't have the chance and you can't find it. It's also more expensive. So the dill that we're gonna also put in here is not fresh. So, you just do what you can when you can, but I would go for fresh herbs when you can. So we're just gonna give that a little stir, God, this smells good. I wish you could smell this. All that vegetable and meat just sort of simmering down. It's really looking perfect here. So, my favorite part, we're gonna deglaze with a little wine, let that really get all those flavors that have sort of caramelized on the bottom, especially the fat from the meat. You can really see there's some caramelization going on there. So you wanna make sure you get that wine and you can hear that sizzle. And then the second you've put the wine in, you really need to give that a good stir. Really give that a good stir. And make sure you scrape up all those really good flavorsome bits in the bottom. So the other base is gonna be a little bit of fish stock. So these are these fish, gel cubes, I guess you'd call them, that we're gonna put in. So you put into 2 things of fish stock, and then you should have your kettle boiling, and you're gonna put a little bit of boiling water into it. So our kettle over here. We're gonna use 1 liter of boiling water for our 2 fish stock cubes. I'm gonna eventually get really good at my liters to my cups, but I'm not quite there yet. So there we go with our boiling water. And you're gonna add 5 bay leaves to that. So those nice 5 bay leaves. And you're just gonna mix that up and you're all set, and that'll just sit there for a second. We're gonna add a little bit of flour to our clam chowder, just to really give it that thickness, because clam chowder, it's like, you really can only eat it with a spoon. It's not really soft. And then all you do is add in some white pepper, your clams, which have been relaxing right there. Add in your potatoes, which have been boiled. I think that's about 2 potatoes that I boiled and then chopped up. And then the kicker and the best part is all of that gorgeous double cream that's just gonna go in there. And then you're gonna finish off with your base, which is this nice fish stock. And that is just gonna boil away, getting all those flavors really in there for about, I'd say about 20, 30 minutes. You can leave it overnight if you really want to, and it's absolutely delicious. So we've got a break coming up now, but stay tuned. There's lots more in store. I've got these shrimps and beers all ready for cooking up, and those bun rolls are gonna be delicious. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our American kitchen. We're going for New England cuisine today with the spotlight on its amazing fresh seafood. Before the break, I got started on American favorite quahog clam chowder, simmering away right there, and now I'm about to rustle up some of these shrimp bun rolls. But first, let's say hello again to our special guest today, Glasgow food geek Pam Gilmore, and Jihad Hattu from Grunting Growler. It's great to have you all here with me today, and I'm looking forward to a really good old chat shortly. So, on to our shrimp bun rolls. Here's our shrimp. I just got frozen ones. You can get fresh ones and be as fancy as you want, but these are just frozen from the grocery store freezer aisle. I have some really nice dark ale that's just boiling away right here, really hot and nice. And I'm just gonna put these shrimp in for a couple minutes until they're nice and pink, probably about 2 minutes, and our shrimp are gonna be done. It's really as easy as that. The only other thing we need to sort of get going before we start on our shrimp are these gorgeous buns. Use a hot dog bun. That's how you do it at those roadside shacks. So we're just gonna get these sort of browning up here, get some nice extra butter on there. You can't go wrong with a little extra butter. And now we're gonna get started on our sauce. So it's these shrimp in this gorgeous, fresh, light, happy sauce in these beautiful hot dog buns that we're gonna be eating. So to get started, we're gonna chop up a few vegetables, my least favorite thing to do, but what I usually do is at the beginning of the week, I chop a bunch of vegetables while I watch some TV show, Liberty's American Great Cookbook that I love, and I just put them in the fridge in plastic bags so that when I come home from work at night, I don't need to go chopping onions and find my onion goggles somewhere and do everything. So you just sort of can chop everything up ahead of time. So here's some celery, and you want to get it pretty small because we're not cooking this down, we're not doing anything, it's all going to go in raw, which is one reason why this sauce is just so nice, is because everything's really raw and really fresh. So we'll chop up this celery, and while we do that, Pam, have you ever had a shrimp bun roll or anything like that?
Unfortunately, I haven't. My husband's allergic to fish, so I don't get to eat an awful lot of fish things, so I'm really excited to because it smells amazing.
Well, I am glad that I can be of service. So we have our celery in here, and these are just some nice spring onions. Just sort of peel off any of the little scraggly bits there that you don't want. You can just sort of peel them off. These are actually in pretty good shape, but make sure you get rid of any sort of scraggly bits, which also include these little bits right at the end. I just get rid of them. You don't want to use them. They don't taste very good. So we'll again chop these up pretty thin because they're going to go in really nice and raw. That freshness is going to be there. And we're just going to put them in. So usually the New England food would be a lobster roll, not a shrimp roll. And I mean at every roadside shack, which sounds funny because lobster is such a delicacy, but every single roadside, place in Maine has lobster rolls because they're really cheap. But here they're a lot more expensive. I also think the lobsters here are better. They're like a much more buttery flavor. So we're going to use shrimp instead to sort of keep out the real expensiveness. So here's our coriander that we've just chopped up to also put in there. We're going to put a little zest of the lime. So this is my little zester. I couldn't find my micro zester this morning, so I'm using this little tool. So a little lemon zest. And we're going to chop up our lemon and just get a nice squeeze of juice. And that's really going to elevate this sauce from when we put in sort of the heavier flavors of the mayonnaise. A lot of times, just a little bit of citrus is all you need to lighten up something that's quite heavy, given the amount of butter, 125 grams that we're putting in. A little bit of mayonnaise, about 100 milliliters right there. A little bit of white pepper. Don't smell it because you're going to sneeze. I'll probably sneeze as we go on here. A little bit of fresh horseradish really gives it a bite. And then one of my favorite spices, a little paprika that we're just going to put in there. And then we're just going to mix that all together and simply add our shrimp that looks like it's just about done cooking, which will be absolutely divine once you mix it all together. I'll take a peek at our little buns, see if they're heating up. Nice and brown. You can see that. That's exactly the color you want. So we have our clam chowder that's just been simmering away. You can see all these beautiful colors. You can see the carrots. You can see the celery and the potatoes. I mean, just look at all this color. And we're just gonna put this in a nice little bowl. Make sure you get a lot of the juice because that's what's so delicious. We have a bay leaf in there. I like to leave it in there because I think it makes it nice and it makes people see that you really took the time to spice up everything and make it just absolutely delicious. So there is gonna be our stunning, thick, beautiful clam chowder. Just right there, you can see all the bacon pieces. I love it when it's nice and thick like that. We're gonna take our shrimp out of the beer, leave that beer flavor in there, into this nice sauce right there. Give it a little mix. Oh, look at that, look at that. I like to serve them a little bit warm, just like that, so that they're really nice and beautiful. There's our nice toasted bun. Get that really mixed up nice there. And then you just plate it up absolutely divinely like that. You can see all that beautiful little stuff right there. A little bit of parsley, and there you have it, your stunning New England clam chowder and a shrimp bun roll all ready for you to eat. We have a couple of people who really know their food with us today. Fellow American Jihad Hatu, who owns the Grunting Growler craft beer shop, is here, along with the Glasgow food geek, otherwise known as blogger Pam Gilmore. Good to have you all with us here today for this taste of New England cuisine. Let's just dive in.
Yeah.
I mean, here, the food's hot. You gotta eat while it's hot.
Well, the
Go
thing
for
is,
it.
I see these utensils, you know, cutlery in front of me, but I think I'm just gonna dive in, you know, and just do it properly.
That's how you do it in America,
yeah,
right?
It's all about comfort food, and it's not about being all nice.
No, you just get it all over your face.
Yeah,
I
so-
spend half my life with food all over my face.
Napkins. Hiding your mouth so people can't see things.
Cheers.
This chowder's amazing.
Do you like it?
I've never had clam chowder before, and I wasn't really sure what to expect. It's beautiful. It's really nice.
Well, this is the moment of truth, whether it's good or not, whether it's worth for everybody to make at home.
Definitely.
What do you like about sort of New England cuisine?
I think it's quite similar to Scottish cuisine, isn't it? It uses the same ingredients, just with different spices and flavours and things like that. But it always kind of reminds me of home a little bit, even though it's quite different.
Yeah, it has that sort of that basis in seafood.
Yeah.
New England is New England, right? It has a lot of flavors
Absolutely.
from here and everything. What about you? Does this taste like home?
This is, excuse me, while my mouth is still full. Absolute dynamite. It's everything. It's, it's comfort food. And that's the most important thing, Something that's like really quick, easy, hearty, something you're just gonna dive into. Just make you feel good about yourself, Maybe not the beach body or anything like that, but that's not a big deal.
This would be sort of, the perfect thing to have a nice ice-cold beer with, and you have the Grunting Growler, a
That's
beautiful
right.
craft beer shop. So where'd you guys set down roots? You're pretty new, aren't you?
Thing is, we just launched our permanent shop on Old Dumbarton Road. So really quirky type place, full of independent businesses. It's not like a main street or anything like that, but there's so many small independents. Really, really up and coming right now. Absolutely love it.
Fantastic. And where did the name, that's such a cool name, Grunting Growler, where did that come from?
Right, so it sounds a bit weird, but it's, we do draft beer to take home. So people used to take draft beer home from a pub with a bucket and a lid. The only thing is when they'd walk home, the CO2 would bubble off, letting out a hissing, growling sound. Hence the name Growler, and that's why the bottle is called the Growler that we just fill up draft beer into. So
you learn something new every
all the
day,
time.
don't you?
All the time.
So what about you, Pam? Is this, like for Glasgow Food Geek, you write about restaurants. That's your
Yes.
whole thing.
That's
but
it.
do you cook at home? Like, is this something you would try to cook at home?
I would try to cook this I think to me it's quite simple and it's easy to follow, like not hundreds of ingredients, easy to get ingredients as well, but I'm not the best cook. I can bake, but there's a reason I have a going out blog and not a staying at home cooking blog. Yes.
And you feel like American cuisine is really taking off in Scotland now.
I think it is. What I'm loving at the moment is it's not just burgers. Do you know, there's all kinds of different places opening where you can get smoked food. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before you can get sort of this kind of food as well. Lots of street food and things like that. So it's an interesting time, I think, for the food scene in Scotland with the American scene growing, definitely.
What I really love about the shrimp is that when you're cooking it, you use some beer. But I noticed you didn't use anything that was like too hoppy and too bitter.
No, you want to use something kind of light. You want that flavor to be in the shrimp, but it's all going to cook off, so you want to keep that flavor.
Absolutely.
I'll come to you next time for my
Sounds
beer
perfect.
pairings.
Yeah.
And that's the end of Liberty's Great American Cookbook for this week. Thanks again to my guests today, Pam and Jihad. And of course, to all of you at home for watching. All of today's recipes are on the STV website, and I'll be back soon with more of Liberty's Great American Cookbook. See you then, and take care.